on October 17th, 2018. Jim helps provide overall leadership, planning, and policy direction. He performs duties and exercises powers delegated by the administrator, assists him in making final agency decisions, and acts in his absence to govern NASA operations. Jim is also responsible for articulating and representing the agency's vision. Prior to his tenure with NASA, Morhard was the U.S. Senate Deputy Sergeant at Arms. He began his career as an analyst for the Secretary of the Navy, where he reviewed procurement and research and development programs. Beginning in 1991, Jim served on the Senate Appropriations Committee, working on the defense and military construction, and commerce, justice, and state subcommittees. In 2003, he became Chief of Staff of the whole Senate Appropriations Committee, where he worked with House and Senate leadership, the Office of Management and Budget, and the White House to pass the 2004 and 2005 omnibus appropriation bills. Jim earned his bachelor's degree in accounting from St. Francis University, an MBA from George Washington University, and a JD from Georgetown University. We have been so honored to have Jim speak at prestigious SGAC events like Fusion Forum and the SGC Closing Dinner in 2019. So we are incredibly excited to have him join us virtually at the first SpaceGen Summit. Jim, thank you so much for being here today.
Kristen, thank you so much. I'm excited to be with you guys today. It's quite a day for everybody, to say the least. But want to talk about NASA today. And, you know, we have had, I think you all watched OSIRIS-REx recently, touchdown on Bennu. You know, we were expecting it to be pretty rocky and pretty rough. I mean, when we were trying to do the approach at Bennu almost 2 years ago, it started ejecting material out towards the spacecraft, and we had to back off. And so it's taken a while to get to what we accomplished a couple weeks ago. But with that, when we did just touch it, we really just kissed it. We were expecting that it was going to be pretty rough and hard, and our spacecraft literally went down almost a meter down into the material of Bennu. And as you all know, we brought back an embarrassment of riches, I'd say. We got a lot more of the material from Bennu than we expected. But very excited that we were able to close the hatch, and we're certainly will be looking forward to them returning in 2023. We also, with the water being discovered on areas where there's sunlight on the moon, thanks to the SOFIA mission, which is basically a telescope that's inside a 747. That was also a pretty major event for us, because we know there's water at the poles, but to find that it's really not limited to the cold parts of the moon and the shadowed regions of the lunar poles was really a surprise for us. Now, I'm not saying there's a lot of water there. There's probably more water in the Sahara than where we were looking at with SOFIA, but it still tells us more than we knew. The other thing I want to mention is that it's been 20 years with the space station now that it's been manned, uninterruptedly manned, or shouldn't say manned, crewed. The other thing is Sentinel-6, which we also call Mike Freilich, who was a storied person at NASA who recently passed away. Had the opportunity to meet with him shortly before that. But the Sentinel-6 that we named for Mike is going to be launching on November 11th from Vandenberg, and the intent is to measure the ocean levels in ways we had not been able to do before. But the good news, I just landed in Orlando, just drove over to Cocoa Beach so I could be with you all, because we're getting ready for NASA's SpaceX Crew 1 mission to the space station. And this is, as many of you know, is going to be the first crew rotation flight of the SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft, as usual on a Falcon 9, and we'll certify that whole system before we launch it on the 14th, which is next Saturday. So a week from today, 7:49 p.m. I hope you all will watch it on NASA TV. We're going to do that off of Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center, and they're scheduled to dock with the space station the next day on Sunday at 4:20 a.m. So depending on where you are in the world, hopefully you'll be up to watch it. But this is really going to begin the regular cadence of missions with our astronauts. Again, you've heard it, launching on American rockets from American soil to the International Space Station. So the commercial crew program, this is really the beginning of a transportation system to low Earth orbit. And we've got astronauts Michael Hopkins, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and Soichi Noguchi of the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, also, as you all know, fondly as JAXA, are going to be going, and they're going to carry out a long duration mission that will end in the spring of 2021. So that's, currently what we've got going as of today. We're getting ready also for the green run for the Space Launch System. And I'm expecting I don't have a date for that right now that I'm comfortable saying, because it certainly continue to make sure that everything is going to go right when we light up all 4 engines of the Space Launch System. But you think about low Earth orbit, and we've got a proliferation of constellations that's really driving our efforts on space traffic management, as well as our concerns for orbital debris. And we are trying to bring private astronauts to the International Space Station. The hope is that eventually we'll have space stations that are commercial. When you think of these 4 astronauts going up, this will be 9 years since we launched a full crew to the space station. And the flight test in July was with 2 astronauts was really the final flight test to make sure that we could certify this system. So we're pretty excited about that. But it's really about the research that we're doing up there. And you heard me almost 2 years ago. We're still doing cancer research. We're still working with live tissue to try to create human organs, which we wouldn't be able to do with the gravity of Earth, with the microgravity at the station where we have that opportunity. But it's really trying to expand the $400 billion space economy in low Earth orbit, with the hope that the demand will continue. With these 4 astronauts, the research will increase by 300%, which is a lot of research. But there's even more to be done there. So we're hopeful that our commercial partners will take up the yoke in starting to see that and create commercial space stations. I've talked to you about the moon before, and it. It's Artemis. We're going to take the first woman and the next man to the moon and see if we can live there sustainably, and we do so in preparation going to Mars. We still got a lot to address as in the lines of radiation, bone and muscle loss, reversing human blood flows, making sure there's enough food, and also trying to see if we can mine the moon and Mars to see if we can get that water so that we can create oxygen and air to breathe, and possibly hydrogen as propellant. Artemis 1, like I said, that hot fire is really the run-up to launching Artemis 1, hopefully at the end of this year. I can tell you, I think we're working on 7 hurricanes so far down at Stennis Space Center, so it's been quite challenging, let alone with some of the challenges we've had with the rocket. Artemis 2 will be next, where we'll fly crew around the moon, and Artemis 3 in 2024 is where we'll land on the moon. And I say that because the most challenging part of landing on the moon is the human landing system. And it's really, we've got to prove out that entry, descent, and landing and have them come back safely with a reusable lander that will go to the gateway, which I know a lot of you have already heard about. But again, the gateway is really there to provide access to our commercial and international partners. So in the meantime, we've been working on the Artemis Accords, which didn't exist the last time I talked with you all. And it's really agreeing to the principles of really having peaceful activities in space, transparency, open and honesty in space, interoperability, providing emergency assistance to each other, registering space objects, sharing data, scientific data, which not everybody does so well, and refraining from harmful interference as more and more countries and companies get into space. And as I mentioned, managing orbital debris. This really operationalizes the Outer Space Treaty. And it's really about helping each other in space. And if you're not, then it's really going to lead to accountability, which is what we believe we need to do. It's really trying to promote our shared values around the world. And, it's really giving a commitment to each nation, and each nation giving a commitment to the United States that they'll uphold these values. And there are a lot of folks who want to join, so there's going to be more coming. But it's really setting up those precedents to protect investments and have international cooperation. And really allows us to move much more quickly than the agreements we had on bringing folks into the space station. Because they're bilateral agreements, it's really just two entities that have to agree. And it's not multilateral, so it's not something that we're going to be waiting on others to bring more on to the Artemis Accords. So we're looking to try to move as quickly as we can. And again, it really is about having a free market space economy and promoting all our ideals of freedom. The next stage, as I said, is to bring more countries in. There were 110 signatories to the Outer Space Treaty, so I expect that there are a lot more folks coming. And it really is about establishing basic rules to abide by. And we're really just getting going. Next, we're going to go to the UN and push for this transparency I'm talking about. Let me talk about Mars a little bit. We had 23 precursor missions before we landed with Apollo 11. You've certainly followed Perseverance, which launched in July. Last week, it was halfway to Mars, which we're excited about. I was at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory a couple of weeks ago, and they certainly are continuing to keep in contact with Perseverance, as well as they're working in what we call the Mars Yard, which is a yard that's set up to look like the surface of Mars. And they've got an identical rover there that they are basically putting in the data to have it ready to go when it does land. And, we're going to be looking at we've got a number of different demonstration projects and experiments on that rover, including taking CO2 and converting it to air. We've tacked on a helicopter called Ingenuity that's on the bottom of the rover. That the hope is that Perseverance will deposit it on the Mars surface. Perseverance will back off, and Ingenuity's got a number of cameras on it, as well as Perseverance, and we're going to be using those cameras, one to watch, hopefully, Ingenuity fly, and Ingenuity will have cameras, so it'll be interesting to see as it films what it's doing. We've got a lot of cameras on Perseverance, over 20 as I recall. Some of them are for microscopic purposes, but we're going to have some of the best pictures you've ever seen as far as what we're doing as we're doing it. We're also going to be testing the fabric of our spacesuits and face shields, but most importantly, we're going to be looking for signs of ancient life and collecting samples from the Martian surface. We're going to go to a place called the Jezero Crater, and there's a riverbed there, we believe, that may have some significant opportunity to find those ancient signs of microbial life. We actually sent our astronauts to the Pilbara outback in Australia, which is where the oldest known fossils are in the world and on Earth. And we really went there to look for what the signposts are so we can understand what we'll be looking for on the Martian surface to give us some clues. At the same time, we got China and the United Arab Emirates both landing around the same time we're landing in February of 2021. So why do I mention all these things? I mention them to you because you are our future. I mean, you all are the Artemis generation, and it's going to be your achievements that will be the legacy of space in the future. Hopefully, it'll be a lot of a NASA legacy, but I know you're from all over the world, and but we hopefully will be partnering with you in the future. You are the future leaders, and we need you. And that legacy in the past has had challenges, whether it's been Apollo or Shuttle or Constellation. All, I might add, were canceled. We've been trying for the last 4 years to build sustainable programs. And it requires that we have a mandate from the American people and from the political leadership that represents them. We've been trying to build that consensus. And where there's been division, we've tried to eliminate it. When we got to these jobs, Moon and Mars, it was like there was a faction that wanted to go to the Moon. There's a faction that wanted to go to Mars. We've brought them together. We need to go to the Moon to get to Mars. We had factions that supported the Human Exploration Mission Directorate and factions that supported the Science Mission Directorate. Again, we've brought them together, where Science Mission Directorate through the CLIPS program, the Commercial Lunar Surface Payload program, has really got a number of the precursor missions in preparation to have humans land on the Moon. It's going to be the same way with the going to Mars. Perseverance is run out of the Science Mission Directorate, but it is in preparation for humans to go to Mars. Again, we're bringing people together. The other arguments were with people who wanted government-managed programs, SLS, Orion space capsule, and then you had the faction that wanted commercially owned and operated rockets and spacecraft. Look, we haven't been to the Moon since 1972. We need both. We're not going to get to the Moon without SLS and Orion. And with that, we also want our commercial partners to replace that system at some point in the future. Are they ready right now? No, but we need to get them there. But in the meantime, we don't want to unilaterally disarm from not having the only capability of getting humans to the Moon. It's so important that this continues, and it's going to be up to you to push that it continues. So, it's really, you think about it, to have a sustainable presence on the Moon, and all these other efforts require funding. The NASA's budget was about $19 billion when we first arrived. We're now asking for $25.2 billion from Congress. And I know Mitch McConnell has talked to Nancy Pelosi, and the hope is that we're going to get appropriations bills in December. And I'm still very hopeful that we'll get the funds we need for fiscal year 2021. But we're going to need your help and your support to continue to get those funds appropriated. If you believe that we need to lead the world together, we'll need those funds and much more. We'll need to embrace that there are others with agendas that don't embrace helping humankind. And we'll need a constancy of purpose. NASA was set up to help humankind and inspire the next generation. And it's on that basis that we go to the moon and then Mars to build a better life for our children and grandchildren, and possibly to find solutions for Earth's challenges and to improve the human condition here on Earth, as well as find other human habitats off Earth's surface and to search for other life. This isn't just for the United States. It's for all people on Earth. This is why we go, and it's something much larger than all of us. And I hope it's a challenge you'll accept. And again, I just appreciate you having me here today. So with that, I'd love to open it up for questions, and I look forward to hearing from all of you.
Yeah, so we have a little time for questions, and we have a few already in the chat here, so I'll read the first one. The first one's from Shayna Hume. She says, "Thank you for talking to us today. I'm so excited to get to hear from you again. Last time I heard you talk was at the Fusion Forum in 2019, right after about some of the major announcements about the Artemis program. What are the most substantial policy changes and strategic directions that have emerged in the US for Artemis in the year and a half since those announcements?"
Gosh, Grant, first, thank you. I hope I served you well today. You know, the Artemis Accords are huge for us because, again, it's bringing the world together, the world of people that want to work together. We can't do this alone. And you know, the challenges in the United States of the economy are going to have to be faced. And we need the commercial partners and our international partners to help get what we're talking about today. And that means that economy is going to drive further exploration into deep space. I think that's the most important thing that we've done. You know, you know as well as I do, with whatever leadership there is, this is about whether we continue to explore space. As a species, we're explorers. And I don't think that's going to stop no matter who's in charge. And then it gets down to the money, as I said, and that's where the rubber hits the road. But I think we've tried to set that up policy-wise to get rid of those conflicts. There's been enough fighting, and it's time to come together and to make this work for all humankind.
Yeah, definitely some great points. Our next question is from Nina Taklat, and he asked, how can emerging space countries contribute to the Artemis program?
Gosh, thank you for the question. They are contributing, and Japan, unbelievable contributor, and just hot on it. And I don't have it in my head, but I want to say that their budget for exploration, for their total budget for space has increased by 50%. And again, this is us demonstrating our commitment so that other countries and ESA are saying we need to get on board this because we see how committed the United States is. Now, of course, look, I'm not going to, there's no question everyone's going to be looking and see if that commitment continues or not. And I understand that. But I hope that it will, because we've set the groundwork for it to continue. And it's so important that we do, because if not, there will be others who will pick up that, what we're doing and continue it. And I don't think that their interests are the same as ours.
Thank you. For our next question, they ask, what are current and future opportunities for U.S. startups to partner with NASA on space sustainability and lunar exploration?
You think about the sustainability. So we get there. Now what do we do? It's some of the projects we've talked about, but it's also, I think, the in situ resource utilization is really paramount, because we've got to create that low Earth orbit economy on the moon and around the moon. And if we have that economy, then we're going to drive more innovation to deep space. So it's really seeing whether the economics work on mining the moon, whether it's for water, as I'd mentioned. You could also, there are, as you know, there are a lot of craters on the moon, and they were hit by asteroids. We may find a lot of semi-precious metals. With AI, with robotics, with 3D printing, it may be that we'll be able to manufacture components for space flight on the moon. I say that because, again, the gravity well's 1/6 that of Earth, and it's going to allow us, again, the cost of entry into deep space is going to get a lot cheaper if we can find our way to those economics to make it cheaper from launching parts of our efforts from the moon.
Thanks for that answer. Our next question is, you mentioned we have achieved a cadence of astronauts going to space. Is there a plan to increase this cadence once there's a human lunar presence?
Right now we have got 4 astronauts going every 6 months. And we're, again, this is the second time we've had humans on this in this capsule, and we've got to take this. It's still a new program, and there's still a lot of risk with this program, and we have to be very careful to do this in a smart way and a safe way. You've seen the delays from Challenger, from Columbia, and it's the last thing we want. Our interest is to make sure that safety is paramount, and we've been doing that. That's why this has been delayed, is to make sure that this rocket and this capsule are safe so that we can get these astronauts up there. That's not going to change for a while, and so for right now, I think you're going to see it every 6 months until we're really satisfied. And think about it. You're going to have, again, we're going to be buying a service from SpaceX. SpaceX is a going concern. It's looking at its quarterly numbers. We've got to find a way, and we are, to marry that up with safety so that they're not cutting costs to make those quarterly numbers and sacrifice safety. That is the most important thing we can do as we move forward, as we slowly hand off all these parts of this commercial crew program to SpaceX. Yeah. And the hope is that Boeing will get there too. We haven't given up on Boeing, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely exciting to see how everything will turn out. And our next question is for you is, when do you think the first lunar tourists would land on the moon, and when do you think the first ISRU operation will take place on the moon?
We're certainly working on, I don't know if I'd call them tourists, but there are certainly a number of people who want to get up in space and get to the moon. And, again, it's our interest to do that. And we've set up the protocols to be able to do that. As far as the working on the moon sustainably, we had just set up a request for information for folks to look at collecting some regolith, and that we would buy that regolith. Now, why would we do that? I mean, we don't need regolith right now, but just that process of creating a contract on the moon where there is consideration, there's an exchange made. We're setting the legal precedents so that we can have transactions on the moon. And so that's really contracting. We're setting it up to do the mining and to do other things on the moon where there are contractual obligations. So we've got to set those things up before we get there. And so we're working on that right now.
Sounds really exciting. Our next question, they say, thank you for your inspiring speech. How does NASA support its young professionals in the space industry as they try to navigate past between so many commercial industry opportunities and future plans NASA has for exploration?
Yeah, and you know, I tell folks, look, you know, I certainly didn't just become 64. And I certainly was worried about having a family, having a house, being able to afford a car, all these things that you all are, you know, facing. And I urge you to, you know, look, you've got to make some money in your life. I understand that. But I also urge you to come and work for us and then go out and make some money. Or, you know, if you're out in the industry, come to NASA. The trick, I think, for myself, I wish I had gone in and out of industry. I wish I had gone in and out of government, because each time you really catapult forward by doing it that way instead of just being an industry person or just being a NASA person. But that will give you the ability to attain those things, to have a good life, but also contribute for the greater good. I asked my mom once, why are we here? And she said, to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And, you know, working at NASA certainly provides that. And it's just an amazing group of individuals that are committed to helping humankind. And I urge you, I hope you all have that experience in your lifetime. And you'll decide. I mean, it may be that you stay at NASA. It may be that you go back and forth. It may be you go to NASA and then go out and stay out. But I just, from my own experiences, that would be my recommendation, is to go back and forth, because you'll be helping NASA and you'll be helping whatever person in the commercial world that is benefiting from your expertise. So hopefully I answered that okay, Tara.
Yeah, I think that was really great advice. It's always great to hear from someone who's had such a successful career. Well,
Yes, I'm old guy.
well, I think that's all the time we had for questions. Is there any last thoughts that you'd like to share with the Artemis generation before we?
Oh my gosh, look, you guys, things are changing in the United States. We know that, and we have an amazing system of democracy. It's really the greatest democracy, I believe, in the world. And I still believe in it, and I always will. And I've been through a lot of changes, having started on Capitol Hill when I was 27. And there is, you know, the one thing that will always be in your lives is constant change. So try to embrace it, see the opportunities that are coming, and try to enjoy the ride. Things will change; they're always changing, and I'm certainly looking forward to the future and what comes next, especially in outer space. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful talk, and thanks for answering so many questions. I'm sure.
My honor, Clara. You take care.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye. All right. Thank you, everyone, for all of your wonderful questions.